Welcome to Can I Get a Witness? This is a podcast brought to you from The Witness Inc., where we amplify Black brilliance at the intersection of Jesus, joy, and justice. I'm Danielle Marck, and I have the privilege of serving as president of The Witness. This podcast is an invitation to see, to hear, and to celebrate what God is doing through the lives of Black Christian leaders, artists, and thought leaders. Let's jump into today's episode. Christina Faith is a bold, multi-hyphenated, creative, visionary, director, and mentor who is dedicated to telling impactful stories. Her journey began in social work, where she developed a deep understanding of resilience and the power of personal stories. Driven by a passion for storytelling, Christina transitioned into filmmaking, earning critical acclaim for her documentaries, feature films, and series that engage audiences and spark meaningful conversations. Through her company, The Grindhouse Inc., Christina mentors emerging creatives, and she helps them craft compelling content that leaves a lasting impression. Her work continues to inspire and demonstrates that creativity is a powerful tool, both for connection and change. Well, thank you for joining us today, Christina Faith.
My pleasure.
It is wonderful to have you here with us in your place of artistic birthing.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah. When you think about Philadelphia, what comes to mind?
Oh man, family. My mother's side of the family. Their roots are in Philly.
Okay.
And then I think about, and even like, when my mother's mother and father came over from Jamaica, they came to Pennsylvania. They came to Philly. So that's how long my family's been here. And then I think about creativity, and I think about growth and community. Yeah.
Okay, so your family, part of your family is from Jamaica.
Yeah.
What role does your Jamaican roots play into who you are today?
I don't know if it's a whole lot, right? So we would be, fourth generation at this point?
Yeah.
I think a part of it when they came over back then was you just assimilated, right? And so my uncle, who'll be at my house next month, he's been tracking our genealogy, and he's been over to Jamaica and stuff, and he wants to pass down now all of that stuff to us. So we're getting together around photos to identify people and things like that. Interestingly enough, my mother asked for her ashes to be spread either in Hawaii or Jamaica. And so they've been sitting on the shelf. And so I'll be going for the first time, if not at the end of this year, next year definitely. And so, I don't know if it fully plays a part. I'm sure it does somewhere in there. But yeah. And my father, they're from the South, and that's a whole nother conversation about their side. Because, very much so, our lineage, I asked my grandmother one time, my father's mother, I was like, so tell me about, my great-grandmother.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was like, well, the question was, how come my grandfather is so light? So I actually favor my grandfather on my father's side more than anybody else besides my height. And I was like, why are you so light? He was like, well, she was raped by a white man in the South. And so I think for us, when it comes to lineage, my mother's side we're a smaller unit of family, and then on my father's side is a larger unit. But I've always been condensed to the smaller side in a sense.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much it plays a factor, but I know it exists and it's inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's go back to your childhood.
What a wonderful time.
Tell us what it was like for Christina Faith.
Well, Tina.
Future leader.
Yeah, Tina.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't actually start accepting the fact that my name was Christina Faith.
Wow.
Until I got saved.
What?
Everybody called me Tina. So, the first day of school, they ask you what your name is.
Right.
What do you want to be called? And this is also when people were naming their children Christina. People do not name their children Christina no more. I have one of those names that is aging out. Christina Aguilera might allow it to continue a little bit more, but not much. More Beyoncé's and blues and stuff now. And so first day of school, I will always ask, what do you want to be called? Tina. And so I was Tina my entire life until I was in college. And then they said, what's your name? I said, Christina Hopkins, but my birth certificate says Christina Faith Anderson Hopkins. And that was the first time that I accepted my full name, because I was always Tina Hopkins.
Yeah.
And so, I had a very mixed bag of a childhood. I am the product of the crack era, if we have to be very honest about it. My father was one of the biggest drug dealers in the Atlantic City area, who was from New York. Well, his family was from Alabama, then he moved to New York, then they moved to Pleasantville. My mother was always a hustler, corporate hustler, that is. And so she was a casino executive by the time that I was born. And they linked up. And so, you got a construction hustler and a casino executive. So when people ask me about my drive, I'm like, it's the two of them. And then, so my mother and father were together until probably I was about 3 or 4. And I don't really have much memory of that time. My brothers do. So everybody always tells me of all of my mother's, all of her Johns, my father was everyone's favorite. And so I always had 3 mothers, my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt. And I moved a lot because when I was 5 years old, going into first grade, my mother lost her job at the Trump Plaza, mainly because she was a woman and she was Black. So for me, this whole Trump era has always been in my life, because in Atlantic City, Trump is a big part of why the community doesn't exist anymore there, and why we had so much money at a young age. And so we moved from Pleasantville area to Lindenwold, which was our first jump. And that was the first time I moved schools. And so by the time I was in 8th grade, going into 9th grade, I had gone to 13 different schools by then, because we moved so much. Either it was, we got evicted, we were homeless, or the school just wasn't great.
Wow. Because
my mother, she really believed in education. So if the school wasn't good, all right, sometimes I was last for a year, and sometimes I last for a couple months. So I was a transient kid, is what they call it. People were like, oh, I was a latchkey kid, right? When I was in first grade, I got my first key. It was our first move, first grade. I got my first key. Don't open the door. Of course, first day. I didn't last one day. This type of child that I was. First day, the girl that I had, became friends with over the summer when we moved, she was like, let's go to Wawa. I was like, I don't think I should go to Wawa. That's a 2-lane highway. It's not like a little 1 block. So we got to, 4 lane. It was 2 on each side. We got to get past 4 lanes in order to get over there. I don't know about that. And so, of course, we go, and she gets hit.
Oh my God.
And I left her because I was like, I'm not getting in trouble. I don't know you. Now, that little girl, I don't know who this little girl is to this day no more, because I don't even remember her name, y'all. But she got me jumped after this a couple times, trying to get me jumped. That was the first episode of me getting jumped. And I was like, I don't even know why these girls don't like me. Probably because that girl got hit by that car and I left her. Because I was like, I can't get in trouble for no Starburst, sis. And that first grade year was probably my most turbulent time. But at the same time, I had a really good childhood. Yeah. And so my grandmother would always say she's street smart and book smart.
I hear that.
And so, which was very different to have, and not good sometimes, but good, right?
Yeah.
To have the ability to think and do a lot of negative stuff. I was a habitual thief. But I was always a leader. It was a very crazy time that me and my therapist have walked through. But all in all, they really did give me a good childhood in the ways that they could. A lot of the negative things that happened to me were not at the hands of my family, which I'm really thankful for, that a lot of people can't say.
Yeah.
I was always a leader. I've always felt like I can do it myself. Yeah. I've always been very, what's a good word? They say bossy. Now we know it's a leader. But then also I've been very persistent. Yeah. And so even as a child, my mother would say, I would whine about something. They'd just be like, just give it to her. Just give her what she wants. Just shut her up. Right? And so that part has probably come with me through life. And And I was on on the bus when I was in 3rd grade. I started taking the bus by myself. So one of the requirements that my grandmother and grandfather had for my mother, whenever they co-signed on a lease, was you have to be within walking distance from a public transportation place that she can get on the bus or the train by herself to come down. And so in 2nd grade, we moved again. And I was able to take the the bus. So the 59, with New Jersey Transit 59, number 59, 58, would go from White Horse Pike all the way down to, it would take White Horse Pike all the way down to Atlantic City. And my grandparents lived at Egg Harbor and my aunt lived in Pleasantville. So if I ever needed to get on the bus, I would get on the bus, sit in the front, and ride that out. Oh my God, it was a long hour and a half, 2 hours. Because it literally is not like a highway.
Right.
It's a throughway. So it stopped at every single light. And so 3rd grade, I think I went to 2nd grade, I was in the same school. 3rd grade, I think I went to like 3 schools. 4th grade, same thing. 5th grade, I ended up in Camden. My mother got an apartment in Ferry Avenue, on Ferry Avenue in Camden. I went to Cream. That's the first time I could start remembering what schools I was at. 6th grade, I stayed at Cream. Then I got jumped in 5th grade. But I got jumped, but I was killing the girls. The problem was these twins decided to jump me after school. Never seen these girls in my life, ever. You was talking about me. I was like, sis, I don't even know you. It's my 2nd day. What are we talking about? You wasn't even at the crib. You don't even live in our neighborhood. Right. And they jumped me and I started beating them. Next thing you know, I had 16 girls on top of me. So all the parents had to come in because it was like, what is going on? So there was a school that was formed in 7th grade where all these troubled kids had to go to that school because of the incident that happened with us.
Right.
And I ain't go out. In 5th or 6th grade, I don't think I had a recess because I had to stay inside for protective custody. And in 7th grade, I went to a Christian school. We didn't do nothing. We played basketball during the day. I was on JV and then varsity. It was really weird because we played private schools and then we played spades at lunch. I can't remember anything I learned that year except to play spades and play basketball during school. 8th grade, I went to a Catholic school. 9th grade, I told my mother I wasn't going to Camden High. Camden High started with 1,000 students, only 100 of them graduated. And I had the trauma of having to protect myself in 5th, 6th grade. I was like, in this big school, there's no way I'm going to get out. And so she had originally enrolled me in Camden Catholic, but the bill was like $450 a month. And I was just like, that didn't even make sense to me. And I was like, I cannot go there. And she was like, I really want to buy a house. I was like, well, why don't you go live with Aunt Shalita and I go live with my grandmother?
Yeah.
While you save.
Right.
And so my mother, she became at the casinos, she did housekeeping for a year and a half and saved up all her money and bought a house. I was actively involved in her buying the house and knowing the process. I was actually the one that found the house because she tried to move me somewhere. And I was like, see, that's not even by a train station. You're not gonna get me locked up. And my family had a restaurant. I'm making money now. And so, I think just in general, and that was the first time when I got to high school that I was at a school more than 3 years.
Wow.
Right. And so, it has been a very transient time for me. It's been very interesting to have all the world experiences I've had. Growing up was a little mixed bag.
Ooh. Very eclectic experience.
On top of all other foolishness I was doing. Oh, God.
Yeah.
By the time I got to college, I was like, I've lived life. What are y'all talking about?
So what was college like for you? Was that where?
Blast.
Yeah.
College was great. I can't even front.
Wow.
It was interesting, though. I think, was freshman year, because I was a part of EOF, Education Opportunity Fund, which probably doesn't exist now. If your parent had not gone to college, then you were given pretty much additional grants to go to college, to be the first person in your family to go to college.
Right.
And so we would go to school in the summertime, the summer before school started, in order to prepare, right? So you're not just like, they don't just throw you in, they give you life experience. You take 3 or 4 classes and you learn the campus. So by the time school starts, you're prepared. And that was a really amazing experience. And I got some really lifelong friends from that. And then freshman year hit and we found our crew and it was about 13 of us. it was not holy at all. Hypnotic Thursdays was popping. One of my homegirls, she had an ID that said she was 21 because they messed it up because her father was in the military and she had her military ID and they messed her date up. So freshman year, we going to the liquor store.
Right.
You know, in the beginning, I didn't drink or smoke. I said no. And then probably a couple times in, everybody was like, yeah, we had fun. I was like, all right, I'll try. Because I had tried so many times. I used to sell puffs of weed in 7th grade. It just never, it really was the grace of God. It never clicked when I was young. No matter how many times I tried to smoke and drink, it never clicked. And got in trouble for it. I was smoking my first cigarette was in 1st grade. All right, 1st grade was crazy. And my mother, I lied and said it was my brothers, and my mother was like, she woke everybody up. No, it wasn't. Had me in the bathroom trying to get me to smoke a pack of cigarettes. She didn't make me, but she threatened, and it was enough for me to leave her cigarettes alone. Going back to that. And so freshman year, I tried it, and we hotboxed it, and it worked. Yeah. And weed was amazing. Not even gonna lie, it was great. And so freshman year, we were kind of cool. And then sophomore year, one of my friends was like, yo, you know, we can lead one of these organizations. I be president, you be vice president. And they give us this money to throw these events. And so sophomore year, we had a budget of $100,000 to throw events. It was kind of crazy to be sophomore and junior year. Was it junior year too? I was doing something in junior year, which was like, wow. Yeah. Very much so, right? And so we went from, you know, always being at the parties and stuff like that to now leading the pack. Like I came up with ideas of step shows, and then I was doing a radio show, and it was just I was very well known on campus. Yeah. And I was always doing something and trying to figure something out, inviting folks places and stuff like that, throwing parties and stuff, just making it shake. To the point when I was in college, everybody thought that I was a communications major because I was just always marketing and communicating. Yeah. I was making mixtapes and all kinds of stuff. No, I was a criminal justice, Africana studies that minored in English and criminology major. Thought I was going to be a lawyer, y'all. Thought I was going to be a lawyer, which is a whole nother conversation. And so I double majored and double minored. And then in junior year, conviction started to roll around in a way that I never had experienced it before. And then at the end of my junior year, several things happened my junior year where, this is long-winded.
No, please.
You sure?
Yes, please.
I know I'm long-winded.
We want to hear.
My junior year, so several things happened my junior year. Yeah. My junior year, that group of 13 kind of like, and through sophomore year, started to like fall apart, right? So it ended up being just like 3 or 4 of us left. Yeah. And everybody kind of started to have their own paths and their own journey. One of my friends started to pledge and all kinds of other things. And so, you know, it kind of like comes apart a little bit. But I just started to experience different things. A couple things that I experienced was, unfortunately, that my junior year's, Christmas break. We called it the 21 Days of Hell in my family. Where my brothers was drug traffickers. Nah, they not doing that no more. I can say that now. My brothers were drug trafficking, and one of my brothers was going through a lot. And in going through a lot, he thought the feds was after him, potentially so. So we was pretty much cooped up in the house for 21 days over the break. Wow. And during that 21 days, my uncle's in the house, I'm in the house, one of my friends is in the house. It ain't even got to be in the house, but he just like, hey, we here. And my mom and my 2 brothers who didn't live with us, like they had their own homes. They were doing well because they was doing what they was doing. And then one day, my uncle had figured out a way to sneak off to get his I don't even know if it was crack or heroin. I think it was heroin. It's heroin, and my homie had figured out a way to go get some weed because it was also a drought in that time. I don't know if y'all know droughts. We used to go in a drought before they started being everywhere. And so it was a drought. Oh yeah, I used to sell weed in college too. There was a drought, and my homie had went to the projects and found some weed, and I was like, oh, thank you. So I'm sitting at the table, high as a kite. My friend, actually, he was there. He was laying. I gotta hit him like, you know, you was there when I got saved. My homie was, you know, he was just laying, knocked out in the living room, and me and my uncle were in the kitchen, and I was high. I think I had a blunt in my hand at the time too. And my uncle was like, asked my uncle, I was like, I don't even know how we got on a conversation. And I think he started asking me about Jesus and my thoughts on Christianity and stuff. And I was like, I just don't understand how a white man would die for my sins and how the word of God written by white men was the word of God, right? How was the Bible written by white men, the word of God? And how did Jesus, a man, die for my sins? And he was like, go downstairs and get my Bible. I'm high and he's high. But I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go downstairs and get it. He's like, turn to Romans 7. And I was like, all right. First of all, these letters are small. And he had me read Romans 7. That which I don't want to do, I do. But the thing I don't want to do, I don't do because it's a sin that lives in me. And I was like, that's me. And did he answer my questions? No, he did answer my questions. He said, Jesus ain't no white man. And the word of God wasn't written by white men.
Right.
And then, carry on. And then I was like, hey, can I take this with me, back to school? And he was like, yeah, but listen, this is what I want you to do if you take it with you. Every day you wake up, when you sit on the toilet, read it. And I used to go to school and just open it up. Depressed as all get out, right? Just, in college and in that age, you don't really know. And then one pivotal thing I think that really kind of like shifted my life is when Aaliyah died, I was crying on the couch like, God, why would you take her from us? And I was like, what's my purpose? Why would you send me into college like this? Wow. Right? And so I think I started to ask God questions during this time. Like I do remember praying when I was young and stuff like that, but I wasn't raised in the church, right? We had some understanding of it, but I went to a Episcopalian church, right? My family went to a Catholic church type thing. Wow. And then I went to church and it was a really good church, Bishop Seymour, Abundant Life in New Brunswick. And if y'all know, they worship rocking. And so I went to church, and one day Lady Seymour was speaking, and she gave the altar call. And my legs was moving, and my brain was like, why are you going up here? And she had been speaking in tongues. I don't know what this woman said, but when she gave that altar call, I was like, I think I need to go up here and do whatever they say. Wow. And then from that point on, it was like, take you in the back, which is really supposed to introduce you. I was lying. Like, I got a church home, gotta go, guys. And I went by myself because throughout my life, I would just randomly wake up and go to church, right? I would go to whatever church was around. And so, yeah. And from that point on, I probably, in January to May, I probably not intentionally, but habitually sinned more than I ever had in my life. Like when I tell you I was rocking for those 7 months, I don't know how I got out of that year. I had a friend take my psychology final because I was gonna fail this class too. Wow. And it was 3 of us, and I was like, look, you passed the test around so she could fill mine out. And it worked. So that's the type of person I was. I was trifling. I had hood ethics. And so, yeah. And then that summer, right after that end of that season, it was the end of school, end of the semester, and we had what was called a free fall, where there were no RAs or anything, right? So you could do anything you wanted because technically there are none. And then the next day, everybody has to leave. And so pretty much they take the brakes off, and everybody was drunk, high. My friend was in I had a single. My friend was in my room having sex. It was just wild. That night was crazy. And I think I was high I drank, and then, because I was the one who prepped the alcohol that day, and I think I was high, one or the other. But I was never the person that was so high or drunk, except for that one time when I took shots of Everclear, that couldn't handle myself because I was always taking care of other people. Like I would break up fights with football players and all kinds of stuff at parties. Unfortunately, I still do stuff like that today if I have to.
Lord.
And so I just looked around and I was like, this is crazy. This is like Sodom and Gomorrah. Everybody just doing whatever they want up in here. Y'all don't even like each other. I was literally like, I was just looking at people like, I know you don't like this person. You was just talking about this person. And I was just like, this is not right. And And I was like, Jesus, if you're real, show me. That was literally what I thought, because I was like, this is not right. Like, it's enjoyable. It stopped being enjoyable. And it was like, this is not right. So I literally prayed the prayer, Jesus, if you're real, show me. So I packed up my little car that I had, and I was living a very prosperous life in entertainment. I was the director of urban for the radio station, and I had a great internship, and I'm at daddy's house, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff in this time. And I packed that little car up. I smoked the clove, because I started to smoke cloves. That's when I should have known something had to stop. Smoked the clove on the way home. Ended up getting a summer job. And it was helping kids find jobs, right?
Wow.
Always helping kids in vocation all my life, I feel like it. And in that time, I was like, I feel like I should stop smoking weed. So the guy, I was reading that Bible every day. And then I started journaling. And I would come in, because it was kind of like, after you deal with the kids, you had to do nothing. Open up the little Bible, look at everybody else doing whatever, music on my headphones, journaling. Jesus, I really need to stop weed. Can you help me? There was a guy named Lawrence who was there, and he was like, what you doing? And he was a Christian. I was like, reading my Bible, minding my business, trying not to get involved with none of this stuff. And my friend, who was my friend at the time, that we had been friends since 7th grade, that went to the same school, college as me. Well, she had transferred in once we reconnected. I just didn't want to do everything everybody did no more. And so Lawrence was like, how you reading it? And I was like, bro, wherever I open it up is where it lands. He was like, that's actually not the best way to read. And I was like, well, show me. And so he was like, read the book of John first. And so he was the only Christian that I knew at the time, because I had known Christians, but nobody had ever invited me to Jesus, talked to me about Jesus or nothing else. But when people would talk about God, I would literally leave the room. And one of the things I think one of my friends had, and she expressed this to me before, one of the last times we talked over 10, 15 years ago now, is that when she was coming to God, I wasn't supportive of it. And so I wanted her to be supportive when I was. And I was like, bro, I didn't even understand what you was going through. Like, and she was going to church and everything. And I was like, I want nothing to do with it. I was that type of person. I wanted nothing to do with it. And so once I became a Christian, it was a culture shock for everyone around me, because I had never expressed any of this, and I went in head first. Like, I was the Christian that my life completely changed. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, my conviction was so high that I couldn't do anything, right? And so that summer, I remember last time I smoked weed, and I was like, I don't know where to get a weed, but I need some weed right now. And it was a bike in my backyard. I don't know where this bike came from. It definitely was a throwaway. And I got on this little bike and rode to Camden to the corner, to the Chinese store, because you always get something at the Chinese store. Somebody in there went to the Chinese store, and then it started raining. And I was thinking, like, I hope Lawrence don't see me. Conviction. Wow. Right? But the same thing happened to me when I was in college, and I was smoking weed and pulled up in the middle of the towers, and the gospel choir, the people that I knew was Christians, the gospel choir was there, and I backed. You know how hard it is to reverse out of a circle high? I reversed out the circle high. Conviction. And so I was just like, all right, I can't do this no more, Jesus. And so I stopped smoking and drinking. Wow. And everything was very instant for me. Yeah. And then, the Lord challenged me about my sex toys, and then I threw them away, but then I went back and got them, and then I put them, and I was convicted again, and I literally put them in the trash can outside, right? Yeah. But things like this have been happening for a very long time with me, and I just started leaning into the conviction versus, like, that junior year summer, I was working as a cocktail waitress at sophomore summer. Sophomore summer, I was working as a cocktail waitress, which is how I got that car. At the casino at Trump Plaza. Yeah. And I used to come home and I worked the overnight shift, and I used to smoke weed. And my mother let me smoke weed in the house. And she was like, turn that Creflo Dollar, turn one of them televangelists on, right? And so I was like, but Mom, I'm smoking. She was like, God don't care about that. And so I used to smoke weed while watching TD Jakes and the televangelists. This is before they really got crazy, y'all. And so, I remember Creflo Dollar preaching one day and being like, I know that some of y'all out there smoking them twigs and watching me. And I was like, it's me, right? So God, no, for real. Like God kept meeting me in very unusual places, even when I wasn't looking for it. And so when I came back to school that summer, I came back to school my senior year, I walked on campus, moving in, and my life had so radically changed. Like like when I think about it, so fast. And I had an understanding and a hold of scripture, probably more than your average person, because I literally did nothing but read the word and read books, because I was like ravishing, looking for understanding of what I was experiencing, because I didn't experience what like it wasn't like I went to church and this happened.
Right.
Like my uncle was high and I was high and this happened.
Yeah.
And so I came back and the maintenance man was like, "What's his name?" And I was like, "Who?" He was like, "Your boyfriend, because you out here smiling and you was never smiling before."
Wow.
And I was like, Jesus, because I don't have a boyfriend because I'm trying to live holy, right? Like that's the type of person I was, that even the maintenance men could tell. I would be across the street at a bus stop and people were like, "Tina, that's you? That's you." I can't tell. Like I had my countenance completely had changed. And so I think for me, because I had gone so head first into it, and then I joined the Christian sororities. I went deep into it. And so, which was really good for me because it gave me discipleship. It gave me a understanding, and they challenged my thought process concerning the word. Yeah. And I always say, Jessica Moreland Rice now, she was my dean. And so I used to be on the phone with her asking questions. So Matthew 6:33 is my favorite scripture. What does it mean? And she'd be like, "Listen, you talk too much," in a nice way. You gotta let the other girls talk. That's why you at the end, not at the front. Not because you're not strong, because in our sorority, it was opposite. It wasn't based on your height. It was based on your personality traits and what you needed to work on. So you lead, but can you follow, right? If you're at the end. Wow. And so, it was my college life was really amazing. I experienced some amazing stuff, some horrible stuff that was really fun. But then God really just used all of those things to shape me and form me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a testament to God being able to meet any person where they're at.
And I always remind people of that. Like, God is able to meet you exactly where you are if you ask the question. Like, I remember T.D. Jakes said something like, before you're saved, God is chasing you. And then once you get saved, God turns around, you turn around and start chasing God. And so I'm just reminded always that God is always chasing us, right? Yes. And for some people, it seems so hard because we don't want to surrender what God is asking us to surrender. I think for me, and even how I came into the faith, I've just always been but always wanted to surrender it all. Like I'd never want God to withhold from me anything that's good because of my character. And so I've always been very aware of of that I have a lot of giftings. Yeah. And when I got saved, it was, you have a lot of giftings, but you need a lot of character to support these giftings. Because I didn't really start discovering my creative abilities until college. Like, I wasn't the kid that was like, "Oh, I want to be a filmmaker." I didn't know it was a thing. I just knew I had a hunger for creativity, but I moved so much, it wasn't like it was developed. And then when my mother asked me, "Do you want to do acting classes? Do you want to do this?" Fear overcame me. And I never wanted to, I need to talk about this with my therapist. I never wanted to, and we've talked about it, but I just thought about it. I never wanted to be critiqued by others, right? And so I was like, like I never learned how to learn how to jump double dutch because I didn't want to be critiqued. Like I'm a turn because turning is safe. Yeah. First of all, I don't want to get hit by this rope. Second of all, y'all take this way too serious, right? And so I think just in general, I think God will meet you where you are if you allow him to. Like, he's not going to usurp our will. We in this stuff we in right now because God doesn't usurp our will. That's right. Right? Hey, right. You want a destructive life? Hey, after the flood, I ain't going to do all that. Right. Right? And so, I think it's been a beautiful journey to still be in Christ all of these years later. Wow. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. So God meets you in this radical, beautiful way in college. Take us to what happens after college, graduation.
So after graduation, I don't have a job. This was 2005. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. What I knew was that I wanted to do creative stuff, right? And At the time, my hunger and my passion for music was bubbling up.
Wow.
And I thought I was going to be a rapper. And I turned out to be a pretty good rapper, right? And I tried to record myself. Also, my creativity was formed around Jesus, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was a Christian rapper.
Yeah.
When I started in college, around sophomore, junior year, trying to rap, it didn't really stick until I became a Christian. And I became a Christian, and I started to kind of go over here and record. It was like too expensive. Then I got with this group of guys that was Christian rappers, and then we did some stuff, but then it fell apart because folks was living unholy, and I was like, hey, I can't do that and be a Christian rapper. And then I ended up getting with another group, which was The Turn, right?
Wow.
And it was really amazing because I built another company. Yeah. Me and this guy, we were together. It was 50-50 type thing, but I was paying for everything. And he's an amazing rapper, still is to this day, one of the most amazing lyricists I've ever heard that the world might not hear properly, right?
Right.
And we had some things bubbling. And so one day after church, I texted him like, yo, you want to shoot a music video? Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. Or he texted me, one or the other. I had got a camera. So it went from, I built a studio in my basement, didn't have a job, ended up going to before seminary, didn't have a job. My mom forced me to take the DHS test. And I was like, I don't want to be a social worker. Girl, we'll take this test. So I went and took the test. If I fast forward a little bit, I ended up getting a job as a 911 dispatcher, and spent most of that time writing my first book, and following people on Facebook, in Black Panic. Put out a project. Then I ended up getting a job as a DHS social worker for the state of New Jersey. Yeah. And so I'm in, I have a long history of phones, being on the phone somehow for a job. And ended up becoming a social worker at the call center, learning all about a studio. So I built a studio. Like we had Avalon's, Neumann mics. Every little dollar I got, I invested in this home studio. And then once I invested in the studio, blah, 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 I started inviting people over. Yo, come over. Like, I can record. Because the big issue, and it kind of like circles back to this, is not having a place that people could just go make stuff. Like, it not costing $35 an hour. And if you don't have it, you just, So we were pumping out music like crazy because I was engineering it. So it didn't take as long for us to get stuff out. Right. Was it perfect? No. But was it really good for the time? Yes. Yeah. So we went out and shot the first music video. I had no idea what I was doing. I was in church one day. Somebody was like, oh, I see you with the camera. And I was like, all right. I went and purchased the video camera. And it was like, not a photo camera because they saw me with the photo camera, video camera. So I went out and purchased a Canon XHA1. Ugh. And so we went out and shot the video, almost got robbed, shooting the music video on like 18th and Diamond or something. I could see him because, I'm still hood. I could see him out the corner of my eye coming up. And I was like, yo. And so they came up. And so I took the camera while I'm shooting and I back up just so that when they come, I could, greet them. Right. And they was like, what y'all doing? I was like, shooting a Christian music video. I heard that. And they was like, oh, we love God, and literally started backpedaling. But at the end of the corner, you could see 25, 30 people. Like, they was literally about to rob us. And so I shot the music video. It did really well. I started writing columns and stuff like that for Rapzilla and the South and stuff like that. It's probably a little bit too much of a harsh critic at the time, which we still need it today. Fast forward and picked up the camera. Started doing like weddings and stuff like that. And then after a while, music videos, oh my gosh, they music videoed me to death. I took a year off because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Right. And so in 2013, I had gone to Black Star Film Festival. Ava DuVernay's second film was premiering. And I was just so excited. And I got everybody to come with me. And my husband was like, what is this? And I was like, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm realizing I have language to articulate things that I've been articulating for a long time. And I was like, I saw some of them films and I was like, I think I can do this. And so we went out and shot our first web series, and I ain't know what I was doing at all. The dialogue was horrible. The actors I settled. It was just a lot of settling. So my friend forced me to cut it up and edit it and put it out. And I was like, it's not good. She's like, put it out.
Wow.
And then not even a year later, my friend was like, where is it at? And I was like, And she was like, well, what if we, I was like, no, I think we should reimagine this. And instead of settling, like, let's really like write these scripts. And so me and her sat down and we wrote it, and God was just it was like, oh, this is making better sense. And so we rewrote the first season. And I really just wanted to make stuff with people. And I was working this job that, let's throw this part in there. So the leader that I was under during all of this time had the reason that label didn't really do what it was supposed to do, because people started to really know us. And she said, y'all need to sit down to be discipled. And she said for 2 years. I was like, 2 years while we bubbling? This is crazy. But we surrendered to the process. Yeah. Turns out I was in a cult. And so what kind of like triggered one of the reasons it was time to go is because that series, God had just and she was like, your head is too big. And I was like, it's not time. You just want And I was like, now, all right, I hear you, but it just didn't sit right with me, because I never really wanted fame and acclaim. Right. And so I had been doing plays and all kinds of stuff at this time. And so I was just like, no, this don't even make sense. Like, God really just did that. And so long story short, God rescued us out of this place. And almost the first thing I did when I came out was, number one, lock my hair back up, because I had locks, and she told me I need to get rid of locks. The locks went back in. Number two, took those scripts and invested in our company, and we started to shoot this thing again. I hear that. Knowing more than I knew the first time. So the first season of Singing Anxious was okay. It wasn't bad. Second, third season was fire. And then the process just continued. But a lot of my creativity has been forged in adversity of people not agreeing with what I was doing. Because I've always been a boundary pusher. Yeah. I've always said, like, I think this thing can be better than what it is. And God really has given me the tools to now be able to discern who am I hearing and what am I hearing. And so I think that's just been a part of the process for me.
Wow. Speak to the Christian creatives. What are the stories that we need to be telling? And what are the things we need to be watching out for?
So I think for Christian creators, so I think putting too many boundaries around creativity is dangerous, especially depending on what kind of creativity you're doing, whether are you doing fiction or are you doing nonfiction, right? When you are telling a story that is not actually true, to put boundaries around it creates a false world. There's nothing that is untouched in the Bible. Amen. The only thing that the Bible, and I would even say that the Bible has abortion in it, right? Abortion of genocide, of killing kids, right? There's nothing in the Bible that's not untouched. So I think I came from a place of being very over here, of no kissing, none of this, none of that, to growing, to watching things and understanding the process. First of all, this is not true. The movies are not real. There are people behind the cameras orchestrating everything. But what they are doing is they are imitating life, right? Yeah. And so I think, number one, you have to talk with God and see what is your invisible line. I have an invisible line. There are certain things there's not necessary to see, right? Yeah. I'm Alfred Hitchcock some stuff, right? Yeah. Where it gives the illusion that it happened without it happening. Yeah. I think you have to be very careful of what story you're telling. There are stories that should be told. I think if I'm going to go and say, if you want to tell a story about witchcraft and God's impact on it and how it happens, you need to be prepared for the spiritual war that will happen with it, right? But do I think you should just throw witchcraft in something because you're going to throw something of the occult in it? No. What does it have to do with the story, right? And I think oftentimes people just throw things in things not knowing that they have physical and spiritual effect. You also need to listen to your conviction, right? My conviction is very different than it was early on. My conviction early on, I threw my whole DVD collection away. Do y'all know how many DVDs I had? Y'all know, first of all, do you know how much DVDs used to cost in 2000, in 2005? $20 to $25 a piece of my hard-earned money. I threw my DVD and CD collection away. Not on the Craig G. Lewis tip. I wasn't on him like that. I never fully agreed with him. However, I did understand what I was ingesting was not good for my spirit. Now, what I would tell someone in 2025, put it to the side. Go sit it at your mother's house until you build up enough discernment to be able to digest it, if you should.
Right.
And if you shouldn't, right? Would I go watch all of that stuff over again in that collection? In that collection, probably so. Those are actually the things that have formed my creative abilities, right? But would I do it then as I do it now? So listen to your personal conviction is number one. Number two, don't put your personal conviction on somebody else. I think for our generation of Christians and millennial Christians, we did that a lot, which created a lot of legalism and a lot of cultic behavior, right? Which is why I'm really excited about the current, the current generation. But I can personally see, because I experienced it, like, guys, what you're actually doing that you think is God is actually legalism. And it is very dangerous to put your conviction on other people or to think that something is unholy because you can't stomach it. Right. I think the third thing is to create without boundaries. I think it is. We ain't got no good Christian love songs for real. Like when we think about what's the girl's name? She just toured and everybody was like, oh my God. She's light skinned, not Georgia. What's the other girl that she Christian but R&B? What's her name? Christian but R&B. Cleo Soul. Cleo Soul is a Christian. You don't know that till you get to her concerts, right?
Right.
Because she creates without a boundary.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to figure out, what was that, 3?
Yeah, those were 3 good points.
4, who's your audience? Who is God calling you to, right? And who God calls you to will determine what you're able to create. The creators of Buffy the Vampire were Christians.
Yeah.
You don't know y'all don't know what happens behind the cameras with people in their lives. I have affected more people's lives behind the cameras than I have in front of it. And that's only because I'm behind the camera. That's only because I'm in a room, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't necessarily affect them, they become a Christian, at least they see a living epistle that they can say, oh, I knew at least 1 or 2 or 3 that were actually living the life that they said they would, because we're living witnesses. And so I think just in general, people have to be very careful about the boundary you place over creativity, because when God created, he said it was good. It was our sin that distorted it, right? And so I'm very mindful that I don't have the boundaries I used to have. I used to have them because I really needed them. I needed them because I didn't have none, right? But now I understand, and there's a deeper depth of growth that these nails are holding me. Versus before, baby, these nails wasn't gonna hold me too much. I was holding on to the nails, right? Trying not to fall.
Good imagery.
Right?
Yes.
And so I think for me and my creativity and what people will see is I have a desire to impact culture in a way that, which is, people are like, oh, you dress young. I dress how I feel.
I hear
right?
that, yeah.
Versus just, conforming. Like I be seeing y'all in blazers and I be like, if it ain't cute, now that's cute though. I'm not saying it's not cute.
Thank you.
But we talked about culture and how people look at you and how these kids are, not even kids, because these kids are they're grown. They 25, 30 now, right? They're looking to see, is this someone I want to emulate?
Right.
Is the God in me somebody you want to emulate? And do I have to conform to that culture in order to be who I am in Jesus? And after years of conforming, no. I don't have to put on something that is uncomfortable so that you feel that like I am mature, right?
Right.
Why is maturity defined by what you wear all the time? That's actually not modesty. That's religion. And so I think for me, if you know your audience, if you know what you're called to, if you know what your conviction is, and you know that God has called you to it, you don't need these boundaries that we put around it. And so, and it's very hard to disciple creatives because you want to stop them from doing everything. instead of just telling them, okay, if you do this, this could be the impact of doing this, right? And why did you write that scene like that? How come those lyrics are like that? Are you writing it for the people, or are you writing for attention? Like, you're always having to question your motive of something in creativity. And so one of the things that even with writing my mother's story, I was like, it's impossible for me to write the story without her cussing. Like, what do you mean? You want me to write her story and whitewash it, or Christian wash it? But that doesn't show the redemption of it. Right? So how do we have all these redemption stories that are, what? Oh, he was doing drugs and, then he got clean. Well, it wasn't clean how he got clean, but we always like jump over these things that have heavily impacted generations at this point, right? Yeah. And so I wish to just tell stories that really are authentic to the actually what happened. So even if I'm talking about a drug dealer, like I've always, even single anxious, the drug dealers have thoughts, feelings, opinions, and they have family, right? I want to know why people are the way they are instead of just judging them because of who they are. And so I think in creativity, you really have to dig a little bit deeper, which is vulnerable, and it's not clean.
Yeah.
It's not clean at all, right? And I think it's also one of the reasons why Christians struggle, because when people see behind the curtain of who you actually are, it doesn't line up, because you're just not being who you are, right? So you're putting, you're cloaking instead of living out loud so that God can clean you up. And so, I think just for me, it's living with authenticity. One of the things I used to say is, like, I'm redefining the image of a Christian. Like, I want people to understand that when you see me, you're actually seeing somebody who you can't say I was raised in a church. You can't say that, that I'm brainwashed, because if I was, then I definitely wouldn't still be in the church, right? You can't say that, I'm here because someone else, invited me in. Like, no, I literally had an experience that I cannot understand, that God is real, right? And that he showed, like, the things that happened to me, like, I got the gift of speaking in tongues because somebody I met on Black Planet wanted me to meet his mama. I was like, all right, Lord, this is weird. Sure, let's go. Went to a project in New Brunswick in a dark project apartment, went upstairs into her bedroom. I was like, am I about to get kidnapped? She takes me and she's like, oh, Joshua wanted me to meet you. He said that you don't have the gift of speaking in tongues. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah. She was like, do you know how to pray? And I was like, I think I do. She was like, well, let me introduce you to my prayer closet. Took me in her prayer. The woman literally had a prayer closet. All she ever did with her life was pray and serve the mission across the street. Didn't have a regular job. She gave me Matthew 6:33. She gave me Psalm 101 and Psalm 91. She physically taught me how to pray in an hour, and then sat me down in a church chair in her bedroom, her bed right here, the folding chair right here. And it's like, hey, you gonna feel something? If it come up, let it come up. All right. Cool, huh? So I'm sitting there, oil on my head. I'm like, this ain't real. This is not working. Wow. Then she calls her son in, who had actually been fasting for 40 days, water only. All right, cool. He put his hand on me. He starts speaking in tongues. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Wow. Next thing you know, I'm speaking in tongues for 3-4 hours straight. I could not stop. So when you tell me that he's not real, I'd be like, it just don't line up biblically or experiential. Right. And so, like, people be like, oh, laughing in fits is demonic. Hold on. I've experienced it when nobody else around me was doing it. It ain't. It's actually the most, I've never experienced the joy of the Lord in that way, where I literally was like, yo, you gotta love him. It was crazy. I wish they had it on camera. But I think just in general, I think the nuances of who Jesus is, of his church, and of God the Father and the Holy Spirit, I think we try to package it too much. And creativity tries to package something that is unpackageable. He is the unmovable mover. You can't package, like, the entire earth can't package his glory. So what do we think we're going to be able to package it in a song, a sermon, or a book? Like, we just have a small representation of who he is. And so I think in general, I'm always searching, not necessarily to deconstruct Christianity, but to deconstruct my idea of it. Because I don't think we fully understand what we're actually experiencing. And I think that's why the church is not under attack. The church has been infiltrated from inside out because we don't have a full understanding of it. And so an actual spirit-led. We tried to control stuff too much when God he too fly for that. Even when they say he was coming back, I was like, the rap, what? He too fly to tell you what day he coming back. And so, I think just in general, creativity is to be experienced and cannot be experienced and used until it is lived. So, yeah.
I could just talk to you about that, just a whole separate thing. So we got to do this again.
We in this one.
Because, I think that God longs to speak to his people, those who are in him and those that long for him, through creativity. And I think this generation has a really unique opportunity because we refuse to subscribe to those boundaries that have been placed on us or that we've been told we need.
It ain't no point in because the whole thing is in shambles. So we might as well try to recreate it. This is the Renaissance part 2.
Yeah. So when you think of recreating and what lies ahead for the Grindhouse Inc., what are your dreams for Grindhouse?
I think before my biggest dream probably was just to create, right? And I think now my biggest dream is to figure out how to be an economic engine so that people can create.
Yeah.
I think there's so much coming towards us that we are unprepared for, that unless we figure out how to fund it, right? And how to really own what we have. I know people have talked about it for years, but most people didn't really want to own it. They just wanted a deal, and a deal ain't nothing but a loan, right? Yeah. And you lose your ownership. Yeah. And so I think for us is really just creating an economic engine that allows us to create, that allows people to discover their creativity, that allows people to discover what tools exist with AI now that allow us to create faster and in a more efficient way without losing the essence of the process. And so I think before it was kind of like, oh, I just want to impact. I just want to be a voice for the generation. Yes. But none of that is possible if economically we're not doing it.
That's right.
And so I'm always forever asking God to keep my character so that I can hold what he gives me, and not hold it so tight that I can't let it go.
That's right.
I think in general, we'll see. Hey, we'll see.
I love that. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about AI? In the church and maybe even in creativity, the intersection of both?
I think
whichever you want to speak
to. The most misunderstood thing is that you can resist it. Baby, if you don't learn how to use it and you don't learn how to use it well, you won't have a job in the next 3 to 5 years.
Can you say that again?
If you don't learn how to use AI and use it well, we won't have the economic system in the next 3 to 5 years. AI is the fastest growing technology that we have ever seen.
That's right.
That is not simply smart, but efficient, right? And a lot of people are trying to resist it. And it's a waste of your time to resist it. I think you need to figure out how to ethically use it. And even in knowing the impact of the water, I don't know if you can get around it. You can't get around it. You can't get around it, right? The only thing that I would say we should resist are the data centers. We definitely should resist the data centers in our neighborhoods, right? They need to go put them things someplace else. Yeah. And even that's going to destroy our world regardless. And so I think we are in a place of the survival of the fittest and the most efficient and the strongest, and our feelings don't matter when it comes to AI. And so I think we are up in arms about a lot of stuff, and we're not necessarily really looking at what's actually happening versus what we wish wasn't happening. Right. And so I think AI is a great tool and a horrible master. And so you have to also know when and what not to use and how not to use it, what settings to turn off and put on. And it's moving so rapidly and so fast that if you are not invested in it financially on the stock market, even though some things we can't get into the open AI release. You just can't. Yeah. Right. So some things we're just not going to be able to financially benefit from. Right. So we have to use the tools in order to financially benefit from the trade services of it. Right. And so I think churches, I think they'll use it for sermons, right? Sermon graphics and stuff. But baby, the world is way past sermon graphics, right? You need them, but that's not
Right.
You got to be using it in order to figure out financially what should the church look like in the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
That's good.
And I say really 12 months.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to function the way that we thought it was before.
Yeah.
I think also with it, people will become more closed in and isolated. So how are you serving your church that will live a second life online? And they've already been living second lives online. But how do we serve that community too? Yeah. And so I think there's so many different things and ways that it'll move that we're definitely not prepared for.
Well, I really appreciate you speaking to that, because economic growth is so important for our community.
And we don't get that AI, you ain't gonna have none.
Yeah.
It's they're electrical, plumbing, like get instead of having basketball programs, go get some electrical programs so people can have jobs in 4 to 5 years.
That's good. That's good. Well, we have to have you back on, but before
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I want to know, what is the legacy and the witness you want to leave behind? Like, when you think about what you want to be true, what do you want to be felt about you in your legacy?
That people actually experience Jesus through me, and that I actually served him. You know, my mother asked me, what will you do with the rest of your life? And I was like, what? What do you mean? Tell stories and love Jesus. Like, what do you mean? I'm still going to serve him to the glory of the God. The same thing I've been doing. Right? I don't want people to sit around at my funeral and be like, oh, she was a piece of crap. Right? Especially on set. They will talk about you. And so I think for me, it's, you know, not even economically. Yeah, things that I do economically, I pray that they will be impactful. But more importantly, like, did my life serve to show him for his glory? Like, did I redefine the image of a Christian? Like, will people know me and remember me and not just post about me, right? And so what will people say and remember from the encounter that we had? So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you deeply.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I love the witness. Can I get a witness? All right.
Oh, thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, peace and love. Hey, family. Thanks for spending time with us on Can I Get a Witness? It's always an honor to share stories that remind us of who we are and whose we are. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at The Witness VCC, and visit thewitnessinc.com to join the movement and stay tuned. Until next time, keep shining, keep showing up, and keep bearing witness.